I'm Tammy Jackson, the senior pastor at Anniston First United Methodist Church. I want to bring you an update on the way COVID-19 is still impacting how we operate as a church. If you're like me, you are more than ready for this virus to be under control and to put all of our safety precautions behind us. It seems like we had just began to lift some of the precautions that we were taking. However, we are seeing a second wave as the Delta variant of COVID-19 comes through. Historically, it has been the second wave of pandemics that have been even more deadly than the first. There are often two reasons for that. One is because the virus mutates. It begins to work around the things that we have done to be safe, but the other one is because people tend to get tired. We experience precaution fatigue. That's where I find myself currently. And yet, as I look at the numbers, I see that this is still a very deadly virus for people. In the initial first wave, we took precautions and we talked about this is how we love our neighbor, by keeping one another safe. The most vulnerable in the first wave were our older adults. In this second wave that we're experiencing now, the most vulnerable seem to be our children, especially those who are 12 years of age and under, because they're not yet able to take the vaccination. So we are having to look once again at how do we love our neighbor, especially how do we love our children. So as a staff here at Anniston First United Methodist Church, we've spent time poring over the data and we've had to make some decisions about that. There is no safe way for us to sing, regardless of the size of the space, indoors. We are carrying much more of the virus in our nasal cavity. It is much more contagious. It spreads much faster. However, we as a community have found singing to be incredibly important to our spiritual formation. So we have made the decision to move our worship outside once again to Martha's Chapel on the Lee Farm side of our Camp Lee property. We'll be worshiping at 9 a.m. on Sundays there, and we hope that you will join us as we try to keep one another safe. I want you to hear from other members of our staff as we talk about how we're going to continue to do ministry, not just worship, but student ministry, children's ministry, and music ministry, as well as discipleship, while we try to keep one another safe. We hope that you will mask up, join us, be patient. We can make it through this together.
Can you believe it's been less than 1 year since we returned to in-person worship, and yet, as Pastor Tammy shared, we are back out at Martha's Chapel. Similar to last time we were there, I want to encourage you to social distance. You may sit inside the chapel, you can sit outside the chapel. There will be places for you to drop your tithes and offerings, and we also request that you be masked as well. That's really important with this particular COVID variant, that as we sing, we don't expel anything that would harm someone else. Hopefully by now you've seen our notification on social media, but Bar Church is suspended for right now as we navigate what it's going to be like to live in the midst of the COVID-19 Delta variant. That space is incredibly small. Again, singing is particularly dangerous with this variant, and so we want to make sure that we take care of our vulnerable children and our perhaps unvaccinated neighbors. We are still planning to implement our fall discipleship opportunities, our Saving Grace financial class in September, as well as our Faith Basics course that begins in September as well. But stay on the lookout for updates, because this is a fluid situation and we don't really know what the future holds. So just stay in touch. We also want to encourage you to continue to meet for Sunday school. There are plenty of places at Camp Lee that we can find for your Sunday school class to meet and to do so safely. You can meet under the tree, or if you want to reserve a building at Camp Lee, please let me know and I'll get in touch with Ryan Gibbons at Camp Lee and we'll make sure that happens for you.
Good morning, Anniston First Church family. This is Matt Headley, your Director of Music and Worship Arts. As you've heard from our pastors, we are unfortunately having to put some limitations and restrictions on our congregational worship, and I want to share with you just a little bit about our plans for singing and worship. As we know through the science that's out there, unfortunately, singing is one of the most effective ways that this virus is transmitted. And so so that we can continue to sing when we gather, we're going to meet outside, as Tammy shared, and when we do that, we're going to be masked, and and separated. And so I'm basing my planning around this document called Care-Filled Worship and Sacramental Life in a Lingering Pandemic, which is what we're dealing with now in the second year of our pandemic. This was produced by United Methodist bishops and other denominations, Evangelical Lutherans, Roman Catholics, and they have some guidelines for singing in particular that I want to share with you that we're going to be observing. Because it is possible to sing outdoors safely, that's what we're going to do, as long as we're masked and remain 6 feet from people not in our household and 16 feet from others in the congregation. And that's for performing groups if we were to have a choir, which we will have choir rehearsals, and I'll talk more about that in a moment. We can have singing indoors by a soloist or small ensemble, so we may be able to produce some videos of groups singing for our online campus of our worshiping congregation, and we may create some opportunities for you to participate in different ways, like handbells or clapping or things like that, if we are to meet indoors at any time. But the main plan at this point is to meet outside at Camp Lee, and we'll be having music out in that way. I do plan to have our choir rehearsals that we're supposed to resume on August 11th. We're going to meet on Zoom and have at least a couple of rehearsals in that format. And if we're able to plan a rehearsal outdoors, then we can certainly explore that as well. A lot of this is just going to be experimental, and we're going to have a spirit of flexibility as we go. But because music is such a fundamental way for us to worship as we gather, then I'm glad that there are ways that we can do that safely and continue to love our neighbor, and especially, as Tammy has been pointing out, loving our children who have not yet been eligible to receive the vaccine for the coronavirus. So blessings. I hope you'll reach out to me if you have questions or concerns, and I look forward to worshiping with you soon.
Hi, my name's Emily Whitney. I'm the Children's Director at Anniston First. And since children are so susceptible to this variant of COVID-19, I'm so thankful to our pastors for making the decision to move our worship outdoors the next couple of weeks. The kids and I have been having such great fun the last couple of weeks during Children's Church, and we don't want that to stop now just because we're going to an outside venue. So I wanted to let you know that when you arrive at Camp Lee on Sunday morning, we're going to have a kids' corner. We'll have an area set up where the kids can come and join myself and some of the nursery workers. We'll have some activity bags for them that they'll be able to sit and entertain themselves while they also listen to the same service that you guys will be listening to. So drop the kids off to us and then go take a seat and enjoy the worship yourself. And following the worship service the next couple of weeks, we're actually going to have a kids' choir rehearsal. We're going to meet inside of the chapel immediately following the service and run through the song that the kids are working on to perform for us in a couple of weeks. So make plans to stay around for that. Don't forget that this coming Sunday is our back-to-school bash. So we will meet at the pool at 2 o'clock. We're going to swim from 2 to 4:30. At 4:30, we're going to go back to the barn and have a devotion with Pastor Davis and remember our baptism. And then we're going to have dinner and then go back to the chapel at 6 for our backpack blessing and the hymn singing. So I hope you can all join us for that. The exciting news is that starting the next Sunday, we are going to have children's Sunday school poolside. So the service will start at 9. We'll make our way over to the pool around 10 o'clock, and this is a family Sunday school service. We want everyone to come, and we're going to have a little devotion out by the pool. We'll get to enjoy the pool until around lunchtime, and then at lunchtime as families we can move over to the dining hall and pick up lunch that Camp Lee is willing to prepare for us, and we can hang out at the picnic tables and have lunch and just have a really fun morning together. I hope you can all make plans to join us.